When I step up in the place, say yo, I step correct.
Welcome to the Young Turks. This is Anna Kasparian, and Cenk Uygur is still out of town, but thankfully we have Brian Unger co-hosting with us today. Hey,
Thank
Brian.
you, Anna, for having me back. I am a seat warmer here.
No, we love
apparently.
having you. It's awesome.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So we are going to do something a little different today. Obviously, the show is unusual, but we are going to start with entertainment in the first hour, and the second hour we're going to talk about some political news and what's going on with healthcare reform. JR, do you want to say something?
What's with all this green on today?
Oh, and it's St. Patty's Day. I knew I was forgetting something. I mean, I'm not forgetting because I'm obviously wearing green, but I forgot to mention it first thing. But happy St. Patty's Day.
Wait a minute. Is it an accident or is it not a
No,
coincidence?
it's
you
not a
actually did
coincidence.
wake up this morning and say, I should put this green dress on.
I did.
I have this. I should wear it. Okay. All right. I thought it'd be really cool if it were a coincidence.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool, especially since I never wear this dress on the show. So, but all right. So,
Does anybody really know? I'm sorry, I really don't mean to get us off in the beginning. Does anybody know why we do this?
St. Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, like, why? Why in America? Why? What are they celebrating? What did St. Patrick? Was he a lush and a overweight? Was he obese? I mean, was he all about eating and drinking? Because that's all we're doing on this day.
That's true.
I've
That
said
is
it
what
before.
we're doing.
I was coming to work, and there's lines outside of Irish pubs everywhere to get in in the middle of the day. I was like, well, any other Wednesday, do people do this?
Halloween. Maybe.
But I mean, like next Wednesday, those pubs are going to be empty in the middle of the day because people have jobs. So do you call and say, you know what, boss, I can't make it today? And then your boss is like, I have no idea why he's not here.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for the economy in the end because all of these people will leave these pubs and then get in their cars and then get on the freeway and then they get pulled over by state troopers and then they have very costly traffic bills to pay in the end and the
very
state
true.
wins.
That's true.
It's Marxist.
And people love any excuse to party and have a good time. Good Day LA was interviewing some party girls at 9 a.m. in the morning today, and they were drunk. They were at a bar and they were wasted.
I think it's just good Irish tradition, right? Is that different from any other day in America for this dyed in the green wool Irish folks?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know the answers to these questions. I mean, I guess it's one of these feast days. I guess you're celebrating some. What was it? Valentine's Day was celebrating some other saint.
Yes,
who
that's
was
right.
about love, and then this one's about what? Eating and drinking. I mean, I don't know.
It's pretty much about drinking. Yes, it is. It's
From
about
the
getting shit faced and then calling off work and all those things. And are we going to stand in the way of those people who want to just get hammered?
I don't see a green jacket on you, Brian.
Yeah, I noticed that, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't give him a hard time about it.
I will be I worship a vampire. I'm from Romania, and we have a separate day for that where I just wear black. And yes, we celebrate just the sucking of blood from people. As a Romanian, that's where I come from.
Interesting.
So
I didn't know that, Brian.
Yeah. Are you Irish?
I'm not Irish at all. No.
Okay. Well,
I like to be festive, though. I like to celebrate. I like excuses to celebrate as well. In fact, I'm drunk right now. People don't know. So.
I don't think so. You seem very lucid right now.
Okay.
But we didn't illuminate your question, so I don't know. I guess,
Yeah, I wish I knew more about why we celebrate St. Patty's Day. I don't. Maybe I should look into it.
I'm going to wiki that.
All right, let's get to some good stories. We're going to start with Mackenzie Phillips. Mackenzie Phillips had an interview with Good Morning America, and she revealed her new face. She spent about $50,000 on Botox, facial fillers, laser treatments, hair extensions, and dental work. Okay, and of course, Mackenzie Phillips came into the news after she wrote a book about how she was a victim of incest.
From her father, John Phillips, right?
John Phillips, who was the songwriter for the Mamas and Papas.
Yes.
So, she came into the news for that reason, and then now she's in the news again because of all the face work that she's had done. And she talks about the incest a little more in this video that we have for you guys. So let's go to the video, and we'll give a little commentary afterward.
We're going to turn now to Mackenzie Phillips. The former child star stunned the country when she came out with her last book describing an abusive, incestuous relationship with her father. Now she's emerged from the controversy with a new look and a new life. Juju spoke with Phillips and has the details.
Hey, George. Well, you know, it's been 5 months since Phillips went public with those truly shocking allegations about her famous father, John Phillips, who died 9 years ago tomorrow. Since then, she's done a lot of soul searching amidst all the fallout. Now, in an exclusive interview with GMA and In Touch Weekly, Phillips talks about her transformation from the inside out, complete with a new $50,000 face.
Very cool. Hold that, hold that, hold that.
What's the motivation? What's the vibe?
The vibe is new and sleek and
At 50 years old, Mackenzie Phillips is unveiling her new look. It took 36 hours of dental work, Botox, Restylane, laser treatments, oh, and hair extensions.
Are you happy with what you see?
really happy.
It's an outer glow that comes with all the inner work she's done repairing herself. She's rock royalty, daughter of John Phillips, legendary leader of the band The Mamas and the Papas. She grew up sharing his rock and roll lifestyle and says her dad even taught her how to shoot up. But it was the bombshell about their decade-long sexual relationship, which she wrote about and revealed last fall on the Oprah Winfrey Show, that shocked the most.
I woke up that night from a blackout to find myself having sex with my own father.
It went on for a very long time.
Yes, it became a consensual relationship over time.
A stunning revelation, but one that she has since redefined.
As I was writing High on Arrival, I thought, this word, consensual, it doesn't feel right.
What was your relationship with your father, if not consensual?
My relationship with my father was not consensual. What I've learned is that there is no such thing as consensual incest because of the inherent power. I don't believe he had malicious intent. I believe that he was a man who was ravaged by drugs and alcohol.
Stay out of it, shrimp! This is my crisis!
By the time she claims the incest started, Mackenzie was already famous. This is it, this is it. Playing Julie on the hit series One Day at a Time. But she was arrested for cocaine possession at 18, in danger of being a burnt-out child star. There has been this spate of tragedy surrounding child stars, Corey Haim and Andrew Koenig. Is there a curse of the child star?
I don't think there's a curse of the child star, because I think any cross-section of a demographic, whether it be child stars or kids who live in Miami, I think that there are a lot of things pushing a lot of people for a lot of reasons to take a lot of drugs, and I think that that's really a big problem in our society.
A rehab veteran, she recently sought help on VH1's Celebrity Rehab.
Look at the blood on the ceiling. I sat here at this desk for 2 years and shot dope and coke day and night.
Why was there blood on the ceiling?
Because, I mean, it's just the logistics of using a needle. You go to clear it, and look, it's very difficult for me to reconcile the woman I was with the woman I am. Even knowing that I live like that is actually very difficult for me.
Wow, powerful stuff.
Yeah, that was a really powerful video. And before we get to the meat of the matter, I just want to comment on the $50,000 she spent on her face. You know, she really looks like a brunette version of Mackenzie Phillips.
Yeah.
She doesn't look different at all. It amazes me that she spent $50,000. But whatever, if it makes her feel more confident, if she feels like this is a new beginning for her, then I guess it was money well spent.
I think first we should talk about George Stephanopoulos' career. And this is why he left this week. Mm-hmm. This is his worst fear right here, was having to introduce that story.
Did you see his face in the beginning?
No, he's just, I'm not, they must have given him so much money at ABC News to leave that esteemed lofty perch that he had on Sunday mornings to go and throw to packages like this. Mm-hmm. But this is just so, I don't know, it just kind of writes itself. $50,000 spent on her face and the outside would never fix, obviously, what's going on the inside.
Of course,
right?
Of course. I agree with that 100%.
And then the trajectory is just so classic, and isn't it? And cliched?
It is cliched. I mean, this is the standard story that you would find on, you know, a local news station. It just, that...
I do think Blood on the Ceiling, though, would be a great name for her book. A better name for her book. What's with the blood on the ceiling is, you know, look, I don't want to go into the spraying of blood on my ceiling. Do I have to go into the mechanics of shooting up for you every morning? Do I have to do that here, George, for all the viewers of Good Morning America? It just.
No, that was a really difficult part of the video to watch because, first of all, I know nothing about shooting up, okay? I mean, I know the basics of it, but when I saw the blood on the ceiling, I was like, okay, what does that have anything to do with
Your arm
with
becomes
drugs?
a geyser, and you're just spraying the ceiling with your blood.
So when she made that clear, it made me disgusted, and it freaked me out, and I no longer wanted to watch the video. So, do you have
It made you not want to watch it anymore?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I actually watched the show that she was on, the VH1, the Celebrity Rehab.
Celebrity Rehab.
Right, and then that's when that little clip came from, because they're remodeling her house because her house was a mess because she was day in and day out doing drugs, as she said. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm morbid, but that actually made it more visual for, to know what the kind of stuff she was doing. Because, I mean, I watch stuff like Intervention, Forensic Files, all these things that is morbid TV, and I watch it as I go to sleep. So maybe I'm just crazy. But, I mean,
how much are you watching? How much are you taking in? How much are you watching? Let's get to the bottom of this right now. Is it day in, day out? Is it just at night?
Because sometimes they have a couple of small marathons. It depends on what day it is. It depends on the day. It depends on how much stress I went through that day.
How many shows is a marathon, by the way? I've never been clear on that either.
You have to at least stretch to at least have DirecTV where you can scroll and you see at least 3 episodes straight.
Okay.
That's not normal.
All right.
It's not normal.
I thought that was a miniseries.
Maybe.
Okay. But you're saying that you feel like those details make this more palpable, and thus you get more insight into her crisis.
Yeah, and the thing is, I guess the way that works is, and I know they're doing it for the, oh, look at that, oh my God purposes, which, of course, that's the first draw, is to get the, oh my God, there's blood on the ceiling.
Yes, right.
You know, and that's, that sucks. But if she's in there introducing it, then she signs up for it. And by the way, the $50,000 on plastic surgery, I think that's, I'd be talking more negatively about it if she didn't look like she's still 50 years old. Because then you're like, her face is going to look like it's stretched back. I feel like it wasn't drastic surgery, which I would approve of.
I don't really think it was surgery, was it? It was more
she didn't. That's the thing.
Oh, there was no surgery.
There was no surgery. She had like Botox injections, and she had
massage,
like
a lot of very expensive massage,
right? Laser treatments. She probably got some veneers put in. But look, this was my point. She doesn't look different at all. Like, she looks exactly the same, except she looks brunette now.
I think she looks better before.
Yeah, I actually think she looks better before, too. She looks a little older in the new picture.
I feel like the worst thing about her was her skin, which didn't change, which, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know. I guess it was basically a makeover, a drastic makeover.
Is the $50,000 covered by health insurance? Is any of that covered? Is all considered cosmetic?
In America, everything's covered by health insurance.
I mean, what?
No, I highly doubt it.
You doubt it? The veneers and the Botox?
No, definitely not. I can't think of anything that is less likely to be covered by health insurance.
Do you know when you rent like a really old apartment, and you walk in, and the landlord says, "We repainted, we put veneers down on the floor, and put a fresh coat of paint." That's what happened here. She's like. You know what I mean? And after you live in it for just a week, it starts to look like the old apartment again. She's going to look like an old Mackenzie Phillips next week, like the old Mackenzie Phillips.
Yeah,
all the veneers, the extensions, the Botox, all that stuff, it goes away. So then that was $50,000. She should have just donated to I don't know, to some real sort of makeover.
If I were Mackenzie Phillips, I look, not even donate. Like, if I were Mackenzie Phillips and I'm looking for a way to reinvent myself, if I'm looking for a way to better myself and find a way to get over the past, right? I would spend that money on maybe traveling somewhere and spending some time on reflecting on my life, reflecting on what my own weaknesses and vulnerabilities are. Going to the cosmetic surgeon or going to a doctor and having Botox injected into your face isn't going to change your life. That's not a new beginning. So, I don't know. And another thing that I find a little questionable is she's been going around and giving these interviews about, the relationship she had with her father all over the place. And I don't think that that's necessarily the best way to go to help yourself.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like she's exploiting something that's negative from her past And I know she's getting money out of all of this stuff. I mean, not necessarily out of every interview, but she's definitely getting money out of writing her book.
Yeah, she's promoting a book, and
Yeah.
she's using all these stories to promote that book.
Right.
Right.
And it just feels wrong.
Well, it feels a little unseemly.
Yeah.
But the $50,000 makeover, she really should donate that to some sort of kids drug program or helping, there are all kinds of community-based drug prevention programs that could probably use $50,000.
Right.
Right?
Right. And that, I honestly think that might make her feel better about herself than going and getting face injections that make no change to your face whatsoever.
Yeah. Consensual incest. That's another name for a book. Just so you know.
Okay.
Can it be consensual?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. All right.
Consensual incest. But I do remember her...
Blood on the ceiling, consensual incest. Okay. George Stephanopoulos presiding over that. That's right.
All right. Ugh. I love it.
From the lofty world of Washington Beltway politics to the new Botox of Mackenzie. That's the power of $20 million from the Disney Corporation for you, right there.
Yeah.
Way to go, George.
Congratulations.
It's not embarrassing at all. I know, I've done that stuff before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but for just $20, not $20 million.
All right, let's go to the next story. 50 Cent is back in the news. You know who 50 Cent is.
Was he out of the news?
He was out of the news. I hadn't heard much from him in a while. For some reason, JR is laughing. I'm doing my best, JR.
Have you tried his cologne, by the way? Because on Sunset Boulevard here in Los Angeles, there's a big picture of him, shirtless. He's kind of doing one of these. And I think the cologne is called, like, Potent or something. Or
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I seriously, you there's times I'm not sure because you keep the same straight look on your face. I don't know if you're fucking with me.
I wouldn't talk about that. That's something I would never fuck around about. Okay? Men's fragrances is something I never, ever toy with.
I mean, it's a serious matter.
Yeah, I mean, before I walk into that trap, I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly.
There is a cologne, and I just wanted to know if you'd smelled it or if you wore it. Okay.
No.
What's Fiddy up to these days? What's he doing?
All right, so...
Who was this again, Anna?
50 Cent. What more do you want from me? Okay? It's a lose-lose. If I pronounce it the correct way, the cool way, I sound like a clown. If I pronounce it, the white way, 50 Cent, I sound like a clown. So there's no way of getting around it.
I didn't say anything. Is there something on your mind? Please, go ahead.
Is there a reason why you guys are laughing every time I say 50? All right, so 50 Cent. I'm going to say it the right way because that's how it's pronounced. So 50 Cent decided that he is going to take his music career in a different direction. He's going to step away from the gangster rap, and he is going to step into the wonderful world of dance music.
Really?
Yeah, and he's serious about this. So he goes to Europe, and Europe is huge with dance music, techno, house, trance. Like that's what they do in their clubs. So apparently he went to perform, and he noticed that they were playing a lot of this dance music, and it was upbeat, and it was fun, and everyone was loving it. And then, of course, he performed, and it was not so upbeat. It was rap music. It's different. It's a different vibe. So he said, you know what? I don't want to be placed in this box where I only know how to do one style or one kind of music. They should expect the unexpected from me. So he's planning on taking his music to the dance direction.
So he's basically going from where he is. What channel would he be on Sirius? Soul.
Well, it's I have the XM side of Sirius, so he'd be on channel 66 mostly because that's Eminem station. And they kind of share it.
So he's then going to BPM, or that one beats per minute, that station.
Yeah.
Where it feels like root canal, which is just a pulsing.
No.
Jenk told me while you were gone, Anna. Jenk told me that he likes to roll down the window and drive Mulholland with some of that music playing. Dance music.
No way.
Yeah, he did. Did he not, Jared?
He has never admitted that.
And he unbuttons the top 3 buttons of his shirt.
And he said, "Since You've Been Gone" is his favorite song.
That is true.
He did.
That is true.
So if you ever see a guy with his head hanging out of his, what's he drive, a Mazda? Whipping through the Mulholland.
It's a Grand Prix from like 1976.
Is it Grand Prix? Okay. Listening to the new Fitty. Listen to the new Fitty song.
Right.
Yeah. The dance music.
I, for one, love dance music.
So I'm excited. You're excited about this, but do you think he can do it? I mean, this is what bothers me about it. I don't mind if someone does, if they cross over, because actually Lil Wayne was talking about, he had a rock song come out. He's going to do a rock album. I don't know if it's still in the works or if he actually let it out yet. And some people gave him trouble about that. And I was like, whatever, fine. You know what? Some rock guys can try and do rap. Some rap guys can switch them to rock. I don't care. You don't have to be locked into your one genre. As long as you can do it. I hope you don't just do it just because you say, I'm 50 Cent and I can do it. Anybody's going to buy it anyway. Somebody put out some more anything, and it's just bad. Now, I'm not a connoisseur of dance music, so I'm going to have to refer to you when this comes out to see if it's worthy of the title.
Is it danceable? Is it danceable is what you're saying?
Is it going to make your head pound when you listen to it in the club and you wish you weren't there for 7 hours?
Look, I really think that there is potential for 50. And the reason why I think that is because, first of all, his music isn't too far from dance music. Like, his music is played at clubs often because it does have that upbeat feel to it. So, and also another example is Pitbull. Pitbull is known for his reggaeton music, right? Which is considered dance music, but then he teamed up with David Guetta, or however you say, Guetta, or I can't say his last name, but he teamed up with him, who is a famous DJ, and then he created real dance music, which you hear on the radio all the time, and it's great. He's doing really well. So I think that there's potential, and I like that he wants to step outside of the box.
As long as he does, like, as you said, Pitbull teamed up with somebody who does this.
Yes.
Let's see what 50 does. That's the only thing. Let's make sure he doesn't just think, I'm 50 Cent, I'm going to put out something. Because that's all. That's the only thing I worry about. So hopefully he doesn't do that. I mean, and he gave Kanye grief for making a different kind of, I made a complete R&B type of album, even though Kanye can't sing. And he did that horrible, whatever it's called. He T-Pained it the whole album. But I mean, if you're going to give someone grief for going outside of the barrier and you start doing it, just calm down.
I agree. Look, if he gets criticism from Kanye, I believe it's warranted. And I like that Kanye also stepped out of the box. Go Kanye. All right? So
I think I support anyone who is an adult in music doing anything. An adult. Now, I put the emphasis on adult because there are so many children in music singing about things that they have like no experience.
Taylor Swift and fairy tales, yes.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't want to get off the topic here, but like, there's that horrible train wreck of a show, American Idol, with these prepubescent children singing about being born on the wrong side of the tracks, and a girl singing, you know, who's like 16, singing a Sam Cooke song, and I was born down by the river. No, you weren't. You know, these are kids who can't bring any emotional experience to these songs.
Right.
So how are they expected to do anything new with it? At least Fiddy is an adult. He has like a history. He has, you know, the ups and downs of growing up to bring to any new endeavor he does.
Yeah, which hopefully, I don't know, we'll see what the lyrics are for this dance music. Will it fit for what he's going to write? Who knows what kind of lyrics
hopefully he will sing about something other than the club. Because I'm really tired with the club. I think we covered every aspect of the club, what goes down in the club, who's talking to who in the club, what you got to do to get into the club,
how you make love in the club.
Just the club. And if we're exploring more about the club, then I think then that's kind of a waste of time.
You can go with the club. I just don't want to hear 50 talk about guns and anything anymore, because that was one of his go-tos.
Yeah, no, we've covered firearms too. So and firearms in the club we've even covered. So hopefully there'll be some new ground to cover.
All right, why don't we take a break? We'll be back in just a couple minutes, Young Turks. Welcome to the Young Turks. This is Anna Kasparian, and filling in for Cenk Uygur is Brian Unger. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Great. We are going to do political stories in this hour, and we're going to start with one video that amazed both of us, and it has to do with members of the Tea Party that are mocking a man who has Parkinson's disease.
And this is, I think that it illustrates the fervor on both sides. But there's something unique about this, because it demonstrates how that fervor can carry over into something inhumane for a moment, and makes you squirm just watching it, and it reminds you of political demonstrations that have often led to people getting hurt start with these seeds. This is, check this out.
Yeah, this is an insane video, and inhumane is the best way to describe it.
As Washington gears up for a vote on health care, the Olentangy River Road offices of Representative Mary Jo Kilroy became a free speech, free-for-all zone Tuesday as health care supporters and opponents scheduled simultaneous rallies. For a while, an asphalt driveway separated the groups, but that didn't last for long.
You were saying something
I'm
wrong.
not talking to you, sir. This America, I can say anything I want. This
So
is
can I.
everything.
See, that's the nice part. So can I.
That's right. I can say
I can
anything
say
I want, whether
to,
it's
too.
right or wrong.
At one point, a man whose sign said he had Parkinson's sat down in front of healthcare opponents.
If you're looking for a handout, you're in the wrong end of town. Nothing for free over here. You have to work for everything you get. Good to know.
No, I'll pay for this guy. Here you go. Start a pot. I'll pay for you.
I don't want a handout. I tried to.
No, I'll decide when to give you money. There, there's another one. There you go.
You love a communist.
Go, start the pot.
All that can be corrected.
No more handouts.
So apparently you're a communist when you get Parkinson's. That's the first thing that changes with you. You know, you lose your motor skills, and then you adopt a weird political dogma as your political position. But you know, the story, it starts out, and you hear the reporter call it a free speech free-for-all. That's how this story was reported, and that's actually not what's happening here. Mm-hmm. It's not like a church picnic. Or you know what I mean? Or
yes.
a white elephant sale. It's not fun. It's not potato sack races either. A free speech free-for-all makes this sound like something...
Like a positive thing.
Like a real fun thing. No, it was the debasing of a human being with a potentially terminal illness. And you have people throwing dollar bills at the guy like he's a stripper in Vegas or somewhere else. And people are screaming at him. He can't get up. He's sitting down, and you have people throwing. Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's what this story is?
Right,
I don't
and
think so.
You're 100% right about that, because when you initially hear the free speech free-for-all, you're thinking, okay, so you're going to hear from two different sides, and there's going to be some sort of logical argument made. There were no logical arguments made there. It was inhumane. It was basically a group of people degrading someone who has a disease, okay, throwing money at him, which I think is just so wrong. I mean, do they look at that and are they proud of it? This is the type of footage that gives Americans a bad rap.
Well, here's what I like about this video. There's actually something I like about this video, and that's because it exposes people for who they really are, right?
Yes.
And it exposes the agendas of the movement. So you have a guy with Parkinson's, and he's probably there saying, I can't afford my medical care. I can't afford the pills that I need to turn back the tide of Parkinson's, to the progressiveness of it. And you have someone screaming at him, there are no handouts here, okay?
You've come to the wrong place.
So in other words, in the game of genetic roulette, if you get some terminal illness, that's too fucking bad for you.
Yeah,
and
don't expect the government and don't expect this country to help you, because that's it, you're done.
So what is he supposed to do for his medical treatment? Go to an emergency room and say, look, I have Parkinson's. I need medicine. And the logic from the right is that he can then access the finest medical system in the world in that emergency room and get the medicine he needs, and therefore passing the cost of that medicine on to that colossal dumbass who was throwing the dollar bill at him.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's really symbolic. He's actually throwing his money away.
Yeah.
That moron there. And I'm embarrassed to say that's my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. And there you go. I mean, that demonstrates beautifully the logic.
No, I agree. And I'm happy that they're not afraid to show their true colors and they're not afraid to show who they really are. The Tea Party or the Tea Partiers look like fools. They look like clowns. They look like people who have absolutely no soul. If that's the way they want to be portrayed, fine, I'm all for it. At least the American people see that. At least, you know, everyone knows that about them. And whatever. I believe that they will, I believe in karma, to be honest with you. And I believe that one day they're going to look back at that video, and when their family member is diagnosed with some sort of terminal illness and they don't have the ability to pay for their health care, I hope they look back at that video and they see who they really are, and they realize that their arguments and their ideologies are irrational and inhumane.
I think for someone to stand there and do that and throw money at someone with a terminal illness or a disease who's sitting on the pavement, they'll never see anything rational about that, ever. And that's why it's time to stop talking about all this stuff and stop the diplomacy on both sides and just pass the reform and just get to it. Because that's what you're trying to reason with in a way. You know,
No.
Glenn Beck just was screaming today about how everyone supporting this reform is a Marxist or a communist. That's not rational at all. It's like, you know what, turn it off, pass this legislation, and if you don't win in your home districts for voting for it, then so be it. But you can't reason with some douchebag like that. At all.
It's easier to do these type of things in a crowd. I mean, you know, humans, we need to be socially accepted in general. You know, you want someone else to back you up. You want someone else to agree with what you're talking about in order to feel validated. If this guy's throwing money at someone who's sitting there with this particular disease and no one is really supporting his actions for it, you know, no one was there going, what are you doing, guy? What the hell's going on here? Then you don't feel the shame of that. So as long as you have that backup of more insane people or more people, you know, you didn't necessarily also hear them saying, yeah, either. They were kind of like, I don't know if many of them were necessarily supporting it, but there wasn't anybody talking him down.
No, there wasn't.
So
in fact, it looked, they were having fun, and there were the season. What I was trying to say earlier is that they were kind of getting off on the moment. And that's when things really get, you know, in a lot of demonstrations, whatever you're demonstrating against, sometimes those moments get
violent.
It can move to something else where it's you know, if it's okay to toss dollar bills at someone on the ground and tell them to get up, you're looking for a handout. I mean, what else could you do? A lot. I think those moments can get carried away. But you know, again, I'm speaking about rational people, and this is irrational completely.
I agree.
Anyway, I hope that guy did crawl into an emergency room in Columbus, Ohio, one of the better ones, and demand health care. And I hope he got it. And I hope that he got access to all kinds of expensive new drugs that he probably needs. And I hope that dumbass had to, you know, pay for it. Because he did.
All right. Well, you talked about how you believe representatives need to pass the reform, pass the health care bill. Dennis Kucinich is the latest representative who has decided that he will vote yes on the health care reform, and we have video to prove it. But first, let's go to a flashback, video number 2, where Dennis Kucinich was talking about how he will vote no on health care reform, and this is from March 8th, so not too long ago.
Will you vote yes for the Senate bill?
I told the president twice in 2 different meetings that I couldn't support the bill if it didn't have a robust public option, and if it, at least if they didn't have something that was going to protect consumers from these rapid premium increases. And you know what? The White House counts me as wavering. The insurance companies are the problem, and we're giving them a version of a bailout.
So did we just get a no there? Congressman, will you vote against the Senate bill at the first stage of this process in the House?
If that sounded like a no, you're correct. The White House has known my position. It's not a secret. Democratic leaders have known my position. You know, we need health care reform. We need Medicare for all. We need to join the rest of the industrial world in being able to provide health care for our people as a basic right. You know, if the White House is ready to go back and have a robust public option, as Jacob Hacker iterated, with 125 million people being able to negotiate and knock down the insurance premiums, then we have something to talk about. But otherwise, you know, I need to hear more about what they're proposing, and what they proposed so far isn't anything different than I voted against.
What do you say to the president and Democrats who say, let's get this passed and then we can build on it with future legislation?
You're building on sand. There's no structure here. You're building on a foundation of privatization of our healthcare system. That's the problem. The insurance companies are the problem. They're nothing to build on. We build our hopes on the insurance companies, and all we're going to have is more poverty in this country.
All right, well, he did a complete 180, all right, and today he went out and had a press conference where he said that he will, in fact, vote in favor for the health care reform, and we have a video of that, so let's go to that video, video number 3.
I have doubts about the bill. I do not think it is a step toward anything I've supported in the past. This is not the bill I wanted to support, even as I continue efforts until the last minute to try to modify the bill. However, after careful discussions with President Obama, Speaker Pelosi, my wife Elizabeth, and close friends, I've decided to cast a vote in favor of the legislation. If my vote is to be counted, let it count now for passage of the bill, hopefully in the direction of comprehensive health care reform.
Growl! My roar hinges are a little rusty.
I love that touch there, JR.
I thought all the graphics and the wildlife, the roar, all of that was really terrific.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. What we love most about that video is how he talked to his wife Elizabeth,
and close friends.
And close friends, and they helped him make his decision to, in fact, vote for the health care bill.
I think what that speech, in the end, it demonstrates what this really is, and that is people running for office. People are running for re-election. That was a campaign speech. That was I've spoken with my wife, I've spoken with my minister, my priest, my rabbi, whatever it is. I mean, really what this is people running for and Kucinich is look, I admire the crusader in him, and he's right in many respects. But what this moment is coming down to is can members of Congress get reelected in the end? Because the vote is coming on Saturday or Sunday. And so they're really just having to basically state their case to their home districts. I mean, he made that announcement there. So you're seeing the crusader turn pragmatist in the end, because the vote is way too close in the end for him to be the Nader that he wants to be. That is this Ralph Nader character who basically says, I'm not going for it in the end.
Well,
I mean, he's staking out a position. In other words, if he's maintaining the no vote on this, then the legislation is actually in jeopardy, right?
The legislation is actually in jeopardy, but is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean, there are a lot of things about the bill that I personally don't think are great. For instance, the federal mandate, which basically forces you to buy health insurance, forces you to fund these private insurance companies that have been screwing us over for so long. I'm not okay with that. And to have a federal mandate without a public option, again, the money is going into the pockets of these private insurance companies, and I'm not okay with that. Of course, there are good parts of the bill. For instance, they're not allowed to drop you. Health insurance companies are not allowed to drop you due to a pre-existing condition or, something like that. But it's too watered down. I'm not happy about it. I know Jane Hampshire from Fire Dog Lake isn't happy about it, and she makes a really interesting point. When she's talking about Dennis Kucinich.
But do you think this insurance reform, however small, incremental it is worth passing now? Or is it something that should just be rejected in toto?
In the end, even though I'm not happy with the bill and there are things that I definitely dislike about it, I would rather see it pass because it is a very, very small step towards something greater, something that we really do need.
Now, do you think that's what Obama said to Kucinich when he called him to the White House?
I do think that that's what Obama said to him. Because when you really think about it, what is our other option? Our other option is to stop with this bill, okay, vote no, and then what's going to happen? Then we're not going to have any type of reform. And I'm not necessarily for that either. So, you know, this is a small step, and yes, it's a watered-down bill. It's not great. In the end, I do believe that Dennis Kucinich did the right thing, okay, or is doing the right thing. But Jane Hampshire is upset about it, and I love what she has to say to him. I'm going to read you a quote from her blog. She says, Dennis Kucinich signed a pledge to vote against any bill that does not have a public option. Online supporters donated over $17,000 to him over the past 2 days as a direct response to the reiteration of the promise this week. It would be deceitful for him to keep the money now, as well as the $8,000 raised after he signed the pledge in July. I think that that's true.
So he's taking money from people who are supporting him for a public option.
Yes.
And now he has rejected all of their goodwill and their money and said, basically, I'm going along with this incremental reform, this little, and really it's not healthcare reform. Let's just stop calling it that.
Yeah.
It is essentially, we're putting curbs in for the insurance industry.
Right.
Just like the stock market. When everybody starts losing all their money, curbs go in. That's what we're doing here. We're putting in curbs for the insurance industry to stop some of these the rejections of pre-existing conditions and some of these other things. Right? So Kucinich is basically saying, he's thumbing his nose at those people who gave him money, and you think that's wrong.
I do think that's wrong, and I do agree with Jane Hampshire. He should return that money. I mean, if people are donating to him under the condition that he votes no for the bill unless it has a public option, then yeah, if he's going to vote for the bill without a public option, he should return that money.
Well, this is the hard part, and this is what happens, I think, a lot with progressives and everyone on this side who wants something decent with the bill is, actually last week when he came out hard with everything on Countdown and saying all these extra perfect things, everything is right about the bill, everything is right about what he's fighting for, and this isn't going to happen this way. Then you had another well-known online presence, Marcos from Daily Coast, went off on him saying, if you go this way, we're going to find a way to run a primary challenger against you. So you really have pressures coming from not even 2 different directions, really 4 or 5 different directions. And if he's listening to any of it, he's going to do something that's going to piss off a large portion of this side of the movement or this side of the support for some kind of bill. So whichever way he went, there's going to be the Jane Hampshires that are coming out this mad at him, or the Marcoses that are coming out just as angry at him. So really, it's hard for me to go at him in a certain direction of that, but you're basically going to mess up either way it goes because the bill isn't perfect, as you already outlined.
Right.
So whichever way, either you stop it, or you try to stop it, or just put up your one voice against it, or go along with it, you're pissing off people that supported you in the first place.
Of course.
So, I mean, really, what do you do?
Right. And, in the end of the day, you have to do what Brian mentioned. You have to basically listen to your constituents. What do your constituents want? Unfortunately, right now, when it comes to health care reform, a lot of different polls are indicating that people are split when it comes to public opinion for health care. People don't know whether or not they're really interested in passing this bill. So I think that in the end of the day, Dennis Kucinich needs to listen to his constituents, and he needs to do what he thinks is right, and he needs to do...
I think we should stop calling it healthcare reform.
What should we call it? Let's name it something right now.
It's an insurance reform bill.
Okay, let's
call it
that.
It's what it is. It's basically what we've got now at this point. Insurance reform is going to have to be fought another day and down the road. Serious reform. That is, people getting access to care who can't. Right? I mean, that's a single-payer system. The things that we went in thinking that could be reformed really got sort of labeled as extreme and un-American and pushed aside. So they were maligned along with the entire country of Canada and the rest of the industrialized world who has a system that has real reform in their system and was called socialized medicine and all this bullshit.
Right.
And so what we're left here is basically a bill that kind of puts some controls on the insurance industry. And I think if we had approached it, if we're going to go incrementally and just call it that, then I think we succeeded in some respects.
In some respects, yeah,
but it's,
I agree with
you
that.
know, it's it's not the reform that everybody had hoped for who wanted reform, sadly.
I agree. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we have a little more information on healthcare reform. See you back on the Young Turks.
On Sirius
Welcome back to the Young Turks. This is Anna Kasparian and Brian Unger with you. Cenk will be back next Monday, so you guys can look forward to that. But in the meantime, we're going to have to fill in for him. So I think we're doing a good job.
I'm trying, just to keep the seat warm.
All right. So we just talked a little bit about healthcare reform. We're not going to call it healthcare reform anymore. It's insurance.
Small insurance reform bill that's going to make them richer in the end.
That's
or
what
something
we're
like
gonna
that. I mean, seriously, is this the dream of healthcare reform that Obama spoke about before he ran?
Of course not. I mean, Obama spoke about a lot of things during his campaign.
But that's and then
none of them came
what's so ironic is that the right is calling this a government takeover of healthcare.
Right.
Well, hardly.
Yeah, what is the government taking over? I would love them to clarify.
In the end, this is like government regulation of an industry that in another administration could potentially be rolled back, and we'll be right back where we were.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah.
All right, the next story has to do with an insurance company that targeted HIV patients and cut them off in terms of coverage because they were diagnosed with HIV. Okay? Talking Points Memo covered this story, and it's a really, really great article, and they profile a 17-year-old boy by the name of Jerome Mitchell. Jerome Mitchell got health care insurance right before he went to college, and after he already had the health care, he got diagnosed with HIV. So he was relieved at the fact that he had health insurance. He didn't have to worry about the whole pre-existing condition thing. But the company that he was insured by, named Fortis, decided that they're going to drop him anyway. They cut him off, all right? The way they cut him off is so dirty, it's unbelievable. First of all, Fortis had a company policy of targeting policyholders with HIV. They had a computer program that targeted every policyholder recently diagnosed with HIV. And what they did is they would have like this automatic fraud investigation, right? So they would look for any type of information that could allow them to cancel the coverage, all right? So in Mitchell's case, they tried to make it seem as though he was diagnosed with HIV prior to getting the health insurance, right? Which was not the case. They found some nurse's letter that indicated that he was diagnosed on a very unclear date, but then they had another letter that was from the doctor who diagnosed him, and it indicated that he was diagnosed after he had the health care insurance. Okay, so it's just such a disgusting thing because you realize that these private insurance companies are out there to make a profit.
But this guy sued.
This guy did sue. I was going to get to that. He did sue and he won, which is what's interesting about this story.
But the hubris of the insurance company continued because they ignored the letters from the attorneys who said what you're doing is illegal.
Right.
And you need to provide us with documentation of this and how you came to this decision. And they ignored him.
They ignored him for a long time until finally they couldn't ignore him any longer. Right, and it turned into a big settlement. He got I think it was a $10 million settlement.
In the end, it was $10 million.
Yes, in the end, it was $10 million. Originally, he was going to be awarded $15 million, but I think the insurance company appealed, and then the judge lowered it to $10 million. But look, this is a situation that's not surprising to me in any way, shape, or form. We've been hearing about private insurance companies doing this for a very long time and getting away with it. Okay, I'm happy that Jerome Mitchell was able to get some sort of justice in the end. And of course, they reinstated his insurance and he's covered now. But this is the type of thing that healthcare reform needs to target.
Well, isn't this covered in the Senate bill that passed and in reconciliation that will or won't pass Saturday or Sunday?
Yes.
Isn't this exactly one of the abuses that it targets?
Yes, and which is one of the reasons why, even though this so-called reform is watered down and it's not great and I'm not happy about it, there are certain good things that come from it. And of course, that thing that I'm talking about is health insurance companies will no longer be allowed to reject people based on pre-existing conditions.
So in the end, in the end, at the final chapter of this healthcare reform battle, we should probably rename the legislation the Pre-Existing Condition Act of 2010.
Okay.
Right? Because isn't this the one thing that we keep coming back to as the real leap forward in quote-unquote healthcare reform, is that insurance companies cannot reject claims that were, right, offered up by someone with a quote-unquote pre-existing condition. What if we had just reformed that slice of it? Because in this process, everything good about healthcare reform has been maligned, right?
Yes.
And deemed extremist and un-American.
Right.
And now we were talking about mandated coverage is going to create this lawful sort of demand that everybody get health care, right? And give money to insurance companies. So I mean, we all keep coming back to the pre-existing condition reform. And that's what this bill is, or should just be that, and fight the healthcare reform battle later so that it can actually have an impact, that people can get access to care who need it, and that that the costs are being contained, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that where the real reform will come from?
I don't know if that's where the real reform will come from. I think that's what a lot of politicians are hoping right now. A lot of Democrats in Congress are hoping that this is just a stepping stone, and in the future we're going to expand on this, and in the future we're going to find a way to make healthcare more affordable for everyone. But for the time being, people who can afford the expensive healthcare but just haven't been able to get it because they have a pre-existing condition will look forward to this bill, because
I think in the end, if you're healthy and you have insurance, those people will still look at people who get terminal illnesses based on some genetic condition that they'll basically just be saying tough shit.
Oh yeah.
And when we haven't changed that fundamental part of healthcare, which is if you're healthy, great. If you're not, too bad.
Right, but how do we change that? Like that comes from people's ideas. That comes from
you change that by making sure that everybody gets access to care. And if you want to call that socialized medicine, great, fine, call it that.
I know, I'm all for that, but unfortunately
I think you are, and I'm arguing against you for some reason, and I think we're on the same side.
No, we are on the same side. I'm completely for that. I'm completely for the public option, and I'm upset at the fact, look, I hate the idea of the federal mandate. That's what angers me the most about this bill. I don't think that there should be a federal mandate, okay? The only way that a federal mandate is allowable, in my opinion, is if there is a public option. Because the whole problem is people can't afford the health insurance. So you're going to force them to spend money in this economy that is...
Well, not only can they not afford it, I don't know how you enforce it.
Right.
That it's like, you know what I mean?
I think that
you can enforce automobile registration very easily. You look, and if they don't have the sticker on the license plate, you pull them over and you write them a ticket. How do you enforce, how do you know who's got insurance and who doesn't?
This is what I think. I think this is what's going to happen.
They get a letter, like a scarlet letter?
No, I think that they're
the scarlet eye?
I think that they're probably going to enforce it the same way that they do with car insurance. I mean, police officers don't know that you don't have car insurance until you do something wrong or until you're in a car accident and you don't have car insurance.
Right, but they know your car isn't registered by just it driving out on the road. How do you know? How do you enforce this mandate? I don't understand how they're going to go. You know, I haven't read anything about enforcement. Maybe that'll be posted on the website this weekend when you get to read the details of the bill.
All right.
I mean, are there insurance police?
I don't know. I don't know how
like
they're
immigration police, insurance police, the ATF? Do they break down your door? Do you have insurance?
Maybe you have to send them copies, like documentation, send the government documentation of your insurance
wondering.
provider. Maybe you have to do something like that.
Yeah.
But
when you file your tax return, do you have to submit your insurance certificate?
Maybe.
That sounds pretty big brothery.
Yeah, the federal mandate is not a good idea, and I'm not for it. But anyway, let's go to some other news. Let's talk about Mexico. The drug cartels are running amok in Mexico. Right now, just to explain how powerful the drug cartels are in Mexico, they have about 100,000 foot soldiers, okay? And we're talking about the two largest drug cartels in Mexico, the Sinaloa and the Gulf cartels. And they're planning on merging. Okay, so when they merge, they're going to basically fight the government in Mexico. The government, of course, is trying to stop the drug cartel problem. And we have a gentleman who thinks he knows the best solution to this problem, Joe Arpaio. He is a sheriff in Arizona. We have a video with his proposal of what to do in Mexico.
He is in a part of Arizona, though, that has to deal with a great deal of trafficking coming through his town.
Yes.
Or his county.
Yes.
Right?
So he's right on the border.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's go to the video. It is video number 4.
What do you think should be done? I mean, should the U.S. be giving more resources to Mexico, more support, more equipment? What do you think should be done?
You know, I don't want to be an extremist. We do send our military to other countries. I know it's a difficult economic and diplomatic problem, what I'm going to say, but possibly we should send the troops into Mexico, work with the Mexican government, give them the resources, not just technical equipment. When I was in DEA, we worked undercover. We were involved in gun battles. We were operational. So maybe we should get more operational in that country, especially at the border areas. I'm not liked by Washington and certain politicians. I'm the poster boy because I go after illegal immigrants, smugglers on crime suppression operations. There's violence here, tons of violence in this country because of illegal immigration, but we seem to always talk about the drug problem because politically people don't want to talk about the illegal immigration problem.
Wow, we're covering a lot of ground there.
I know.
We've gone from sending in American troops to DEA operations, then to the immigration issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot to chew on here.
There is a lot to chew on there. Let's focus on the drug cartel situation. All right, we'll talk about the illegal
And what about the
immigration
spring
some other
breakers,
day.
really?
The spring breakers, that's true.
They are at risk.
That's a serious problem, though.
Yeah, no.
I'm worried about the spring breakers. 10,000 teens from, what do you call it, from the U.S. are planning on going to Acapulco to celebrate spring break. And there were just shootings in Acapulco recently.
Had 9 people have died or something
9
in
people,
just a couple in a month or less.
7,000 people died because of drug-related violence in Mexico last year alone. Do not go to Mexico for spring break. Just don't do it, okay? Right now, politicians in the U.S. are trying to find ways to, warn spring breakers, and they're giving them tips on how they can be safe in Mexico. You don't need to know how to be safe in Mexico. You can spring break somewhere else. Go to Palm Springs. That's where it's at. That's where it's popping.
Stay in South Padre Island, Texas, if you're going to go anywhere. Just stay there, right? I don't know. But it does make for a good movie. I mean, spring breakers, drunk spring breaker wanders into a cartel.
Headquarters.
Right?
Yeah.
Girls Gone Dead. I don't know, something like that.
It probably will be a movie soon. I wouldn't be surprised. No, but look, this drug cartel situation is a lot worse than this Arpaio guy thinks, okay? Obviously, first of all, the Mexican government is doing whatever they can to battle the situation, and it's a lot more difficult. It's become bloody. Americans are dying. Tourists are dying. Civilians in Mexico are dying. This is becoming a really, really bloody drug war, right? And the thing is, it doesn't need to be a drug war.
What are you implying?
One of the reasons why the cartels are succeeding is because Americans are buying their drugs. Mm-hmm. And the reason why Americans are buying their drugs is because drugs are illegal in the United States. Mm-hmm. And, I remember Cenk and I talked about this story earlier, and he proposed that we legalize drugs, all of them. Mm-hmm. If drugs are all legal, there's no reason to buy them from the cartels. Mm-hmm. And look, addiction is going to go up, absolutely, right? But it's definitely going to just destroy these cartels. They're not going to have anyone to buy their drugs. No one's going to buy their drugs.
No, you're trying to control an economy, and that is going to be fruitless. because the drugs will get through no matter what, right?
Yes.
Border enforcement can't stem the tide of the drugs, and you're seeing an internal battle for control of all of this economy. So how do we stop the economy? You don't send in troops.
Yeah,
that's pretty much not to. I don't want to sound like an extremist. Is really the best sentence that we've heard tonight. No, I don't want to sound like a total nutbag, but I believe in abrogating the Constitution, and I think we should just send in troops and take over Mexico.
By the way, this
because when our troops aren't busy enough.
Yeah, I know,
right?
Exactly.
They're not doing shit. We should use the army and send them down south.
Yeah, this guy's a joke. He's planning on running for governor in Arizona, by the way. So Arizona, you can look forward to that.
If you live in a town where there is drug violence and there is drug trafficking, these people are really caught in the middle of, there's no policy to deal with any of it. The war on drugs is a real war internally in Mexico, right? And what does that mean for people in these communities who are basically caught in this?
Caught in the middle of this.
There's really no policy, because we don't want to talk about legalizing drugs because that's a no-win for a candidate, right? So we send in DEA agents, right, on these operations. Or isn't that sort of, one man's DEA agent is another man's soldier kind of argument? Couldn't you say that we're basically already sending soldiers there, trying to get a handle on all this? Somehow you've got to stem the demand for product, right? You have to address that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the main problem. And at first when Cenk mentioned that to me, I was like, that's ridiculous. How could you legalize drugs? That means it's going to be accessible to people and they're going to be more likely to try it and they're going to become addicted to it. But in reality, okay, addiction is going to go up, but there are ways to deal with that. And there are actually a lot of studies out there that prove that addiction won't go up that much if we do legalize it. But it's definitely going to kill a violent war that's going on within Mexico, and it's affecting our border states. So
how about Mexico get their shit together? Could we say that?
You want to know something else about Mexico that's fascinating?
Seriously. Seriously, why is the cartels actually have more muscle, right, and are better equipped than the government? Is that the case?
It's not necessarily that they're better equipped. At this point, when you think about it, the Mexican military has 130,000 foot soldiers, right? The drug cartels have 100,000 foot soldiers.
So they're evenly matched.
They're almost evenly matched. And on top of that, you got to think about the fact that there's law enforcement in Mexico that is corrupt, and they are basically working for the drug cartels. There are other government officials that are corrupt. So it's a really, really messy situation. And maybe we should just, send our troops. Send in troops. Send in troops.
I say if we do it, we should just do it from the air. Let the Air Force take care of it.
Maybe that's a great
drones, drug drones.
All right, we have to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have another great story for you guys. We'll talk about the Texas textbook revision. Back on the Young Turks.